fury continues to haunt the Modi government. More than 50,000 farmers are marching towards the national capital with a list of demands including higher support prices, subsidies for fertilizers, better prices for the produce and more importantly a loan waiver. The agitation comes nearly 2 months after violent protests by farmers brought the streets of New Delhi to a virtual halt. But this time around they have added one more demand to their list, a special session of parliament to discuss the farm crisis. The farm unrest is a political hot potato for the Modi government, which will be seeking re-election early next year, and winning over the farm belt is very crucial for the ruling party there, because it is facing criticism for its failure to create enough jobs. Farming is no longer all that remunerative, and one has to figure out how farmer protests in New Delhi and what it means to the country's politics and economy is exactly what we're discussing on our special show right here. I've got Kavita Kuruganti, founder Asha Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture, and one of the proponents of the farmer protest being led there. I've got Shaina NC representing the BJP and Salman Anis representing the Congress party here. So thank you very much for being with us. And Kavita, I want to actually begin with you right now, Kavita. It's quite a sight. Okay, we still don't have her, and as soon as we have her, we'll go to her. But Shaina, if I may come to you, you represent the ruling party here. It is quite a sight to see, and if I can get visuals of those farmers up in arms and against the government and the policies on the streets of New Delhi, nearly 1.5 lakh farmers on the streets of New Delhi. It gives you a sense of how acute the stress really is. Is there a sense of denial as far as this rural stress is concerned? Because one doesn't seem to see the same urgency in the government to try and sort out the farm mess, the kinds that we see in many other things. And that's one of the criticisms that has come in from India's farmers.
Supriya ji, I was campaigning in Madhya Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh, as you know, is an agrarian state with almost 14% as a static increase when it comes to irrigated land and when it comes to agricultural output. So during this campaign, I started asking people, what do you think of our government and the yojanas? So a lot of them said the kind of technology available today to the farmer, the cash-rich crops, the best type of fertilizers, the use of technology, the output that is now produced, doing away with middlemen or mandis, at the mandis where you have the old dalal who used to take their cut, where the farmer is able to produce and sell directly to the consumer. The fact that there are insurance schemes, pension schemes, mudra banking for farmers' kids who don't want to maybe get into the farming sector, the kind of loans available. I think that in itself is what we should also be highlighting. Yes, for a large chunk of people who may or may not want to understand all the policies that are on the ground, agitation, freebies, subsidies, SOPs has been a thing of the past, and previous governments have believed that you can make a vote bank out of distributing freely. I want to say yes, with sympathy and with sensitivity, if there is an issue of loan waivers, we've done it in states like Uttar Pradesh, in Maharashtra, 36,500 crores given out. But if we talk about long-term empowerment, we need to use technology to the best, we need to use products to the best, and we need to move away from the stereotypical rice, wheat, sugar into other products
I'm going to come in there
and produce, which can take India.
Okay, Shaina NC, please give me a minute. I will have to come in there because despite what you're saying, Indian farmer doesn't seem to be in a better position than he was 4 years back. Indian farmer is angry. There is acute rural distress. We will be doing a lot of disservice if we're going to deny saying there is a mudra loan available for his kids, and which is why things are better. But having said that, I understand where you're coming from. You're from the ruling party. You will obviously stress upon the policies that you've put in place as far as the rural mess is concerned. But Salman, even as you smile and even as you say, I know what your counter argument to this is going to be, the Kisan Mukti Morcha, that's one of the organizers of this Kisan Andolan in Delhi today, has also put the blame on successive governments. So it is not as if the UPA can go scot-free at all. Other than farm loan waivers, there are no substantial reforms that Indian agriculture has seen. Having said that, a lot of people believe this government has worsened the situation, but the reality is that the Congress did not do anything substantially different for the Indian farmers where agriculture could have been more remunerative. It isn't today, and which is why we are seeing the angst and protest.
Well, I was smiling because of this transparent denial in which the BJP is living. I don't really think they understand the gravity of the situation. You see, in the first 2 years of the Modi government, there were 2 successive droughts. What happened at that time? The government actually reduced the rate at which MSPs were growing. That's the reality. That's a fact. And you can ask the PM's Advisory Council. One of the members actually wrote an article about how wonderful it was to reduce MSP growth. What are the results actually? Let's look at the big picture. The big picture is that agricultural growth in the last 4 years of the much maligned UPA 2 tenure was 5.2%. In the first 4 years of the Modi government, it was 2.5%. Exports are down, agricultural exports are down. Imports in the last 4 years, according to Ashok Gulati, who's an expert, eminent expert, they're up 50%. Your capital formation as an investment in agriculture is down. Now, you can say that the Congress party did not do this and that. Under the Congress party, real incomes of farmers were growing about 50% more than they are right now. Okay, I can say, all right, Congress party did not do enough, and the people voted us out. They had great expectations from this Prime Minister and the BJP. What have they done? What are the excuses? Now they've come up with this whole idea that we're going to increase MSPs. In their 5th year, they announced an MSP increase of 50% plus, not comprehensive cost, mind you, which was the recommendation of the Swaminathan Commission, but the lower cost basis. Clearly the farmers are upset. Of course they're upset. Now if they want an emergency session of parliament, if they want a special session of parliament, I think this is very important, because India cannot become an upper middle income country unless we really focus on agriculture. Frankly, let us not get into this idea.
Okay.
Please, let me finish. Let us not get into this idea that agriculture is holding us back. We need to improve agriculture. We need to reform. We need to radically reform things. We need to help farmers. So let's please do that. Let's not live in denial.
Absolutely. I'm going to take the argument to the other extreme. If agriculture is holding us back, we need to do something to make agriculture a growth engine. Look at the number of people who are employed with Indian agriculture. So let's not live in denial for any political party. But Kavita Gandhi is joining us, and she's in the heart of that protest right now. And Kavita, let us take the case of Punjab, the seat of India's Green Revolution. We've seen over 16,000 farm suicides in Punjab from 2000 to 2015, despite the state having a robust agriculture and infrastructure. Irrigation coverage is 100%, purchase of food grains is prompt, done in cash. In spite of all of this, 64% of the total farm income goes into repaying loans, and 13% farmers owe money more than their income in 2 successive years. How can agriculture be transformed? How do you make it a lot more remunerative than it is right now?
I think, Punjab is a classic example of a paradigm that has been adopted that was clearly something that was neither sustainable nor was going to work for farmers. When I say not sustainable, I'm talking about environmental sustainability. So I do think that what we need in this country is an acknowledgement that we have made the situation more complex than it ought to be, and therefore unravel it step by step. I do think what farmers are asking for right now is a solution to the immediate crisis. But after having, once they obtain what they are asking for, which is freedom from indebtedness and remunerative prices that are guaranteed, there's a lot more to be addressed, including environmental sustainability, including certain structural issues with certain categories of farmers. So there's several issues there.
No. Kavita, hold that thought, because I've got representatives from the Congress and the BJP, and I'm really putting forward questions to them about the state of Indian agriculture, and I would want your views on the same as well. Shaina, you look at numbers that are there for us. In a populous country like ours, more than 50% of the workforce is engaged in agriculture. The government has rolled out schemes every government will roll out schemes, because no government can afford to be seen anti-farmer. But unless we are going to create off-farm jobs and reskill farmers and make it more remunerative for them, you know, make them meaningfully employed from their small hectares of land that they have, this crisis will only perpetuate. The reality is, what effort has been made to pull them out of the misery of agriculture? What is it that they've been offered as an alternative in the last 4 years?
Firstly, the agricultural space is not some pathetic space as you're making it out to be and talking about pulling them out. There was a talk in your previous segment where you talked about MSP. Now, in a lot of states, like for example Madhya Pradesh, the MSP to the farmer is insured. If you go to a mandi and says their produce is not sold, it is the government that is actually insuring a basic price which is absolutely taken care of and a commitment given by us. So when it comes to MSP, I think this is the first time in the history of India that Prime Minister Modi has taken this kind of a stand. Second, when it comes to agitating protests, andolans, absolutely any segment in society, any section that wants to have its viewpoint heard vis-a-vis the progress of that particular industry is welcome. But to constantly make this into a subsidy game, I think is unfortunate, because that is not what we propose to do. We don't propose to create vote banks and slaves out of particular segment. We want to ensure that they are empowered, and that can only happen through better technology. Whether it's drip irrigation, whether it's better fertilizers, whether it's cash rich crops, whether it's one drop per crop, whether it's solar pumps, insurance schemes, pension schemes, all these are policies which are not just to talk about on television channels. They have percolated down to the poorest of poor. When it comes to loan waivers vis-a-vis the kind of states that I've already talked about, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, this has been implemented. So I think to say that our government is not doing enough is most unfortunate. The aspirations could be much more than what we see when you have a certain segment coming out. But do understand, in a vision plan which is development oriented and the use of technology at its best, the kind of resources and natural resources we have in India, the agrarian sector really cannot go bust. It is a question of how we make sure that we do away with all those fringe, middlemen and those kind of cuts that they were getting in between, so that we have a produce which comes from farm direct to the consumer.
Right. Shaina, I say hold that thought, and Salman, so I'll come to you. Noted agri-economists have often argued that our policies, and these date back to the UPA, these date back to the Congress and the BJPs, are meant for, they're all pro-consumer. The bias is pro-consumer, and as a result, the farmers or allied industries have become economically non-viable. I mean, because the pro-consumer policy means you are, and I'm really talking about the price-driven model, you are going to have policies where the farmer does not get the price for a produce because, we try and put inflation under check and the economic implications of that at large. How best can that be balanced? Because this is not just this government's problem. This is a problem that one faced even in your government. All our policies, agri policies or pricing policy, are pro-consumer. They are meant to rein in inflation. They're meant to rein in prices. What happens to the poor farmer?
You see, what happens to the poor farmer is that we continue to live in denial, as Shaina and the BJP are doing. If Madhya Pradesh farmers are that happy, why are they being shot in Mandsaur? I mean, it's a very simple question. And by the way, I'm sick and tired of this Modi ji did this and Modi ji did that. Before Modi became Prime Minister, India had more land under irrigation than any country in the world. Any country in the world. Please check these facts, Shaina. You should go out and check these facts. Now, what we need to do is, not only do we need to look at the present, but also the future. There's a tsunami coming, and that's called climate change. How many people in this country know that in economic terms, the two states that are most vulnerable to climate change are Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh? Are we talking about that? How many people know that there are 7 districts in Vidarbha that are going to be under most pressure because of climate change? Are we talking about that? No. I think we need a comprehensive. By the way, what are you going to do to the poor farmers? They said everything is great. If people say, why can't farmers leave farming? Because land is important to them. That is security. They have nothing else. If there are other opportunities for them in other sectors, they'll definitely willingly go. But we're not creating enough jobs for them outside. How can they leave their farms? We need a comprehensive solution to this. We need investments in food processing. We need cold storage facilities. We need marketing kind of improvements. We need reforms all over. But what we're getting from the BJP is that all is well. Let's not worry about anything. Farmers are in distress. Let us please understand it. There's a short-term problem. They have immediate problems right now. We should address them. But at the same time, with the farming community and with the leadership of the farming community and with agricultural experts, the next government, if this government is not going to do anything, this government is a total failure, but the next government should sit, the ideas are there, all the ideas are in the public domain. We should start working on these things right away. We should not wait any longer. The agricultural sector should be the linchpin for progress in India.
Okay, Salman, hold that thought. I want to go across to Kavita because Kavita is getting a cross-section view of what the farmers are telling are trying to tell our politicians as they march in New Delhi. And Kavita, I know one of the demands is MSP and all of that, but one important demand also is a parliament session. The reality is that no politician can be seen anti-farmer, and yet on the ground, they don't seem to be the talking point. The Congress party is talking about Rafale and it's talking about how rotten things are and they're squabbling over GDP growth in the past. The BJP, of course, seems to be in a bit of a denial as far as the farm crisis is concerned. And of course, there are experts who say relaxing control on exports of excess farm produce and all of that is going to help. But the immediate concern is that India's rural sector is in a stress and they want a parliament session to intervene. How will that help? Kavita? Okay, I don't know if Kavita can hear us, but we'll go back to her in just a bit. Shaina, to you then, and starting from Madhya Pradesh to Maharashtra, I think the most telling images in the past have been farmers dumping their produce on the roads as they couldn't get a return on their crops. Price control, export restrictions have kept them poor. And despite repeated, please, why can't the government relax export policy? It has not happened. Why is that not happening? That's a sitting duck way to bring relief to India's farmers. And I go back to my consumer bias argument on this.
So for the first time in the history of India, you have a basic MSP and a price which is going to be guaranteed by the government, and that has been announced and in implementation as well. Now, if you have a farmer demanding a higher MSP, obviously there are budgets that need to be looked into at the same time. Now, if you have a farmers march and protest where the entire community comes up and they come up with conclusive policies saying that they would like certain SOPs or certain kind of advantages from the government of India, it's not like we are not listening to them. Whether it's the All India Kisan Sangathan, whether it is the Kisan Mukti Morcha, they have all approached us with written suggestions, some of which have been implemented by the government. But I think to constantly only talk about loan waivers and not highlight that in a state like Maharashtra, where you're giving 36,500 crores, which have already been distributed, where we are implementing the Swaminathan panel committee report, where there is a special session which is only to address agrarians' crisis in Parliament. I think all of these are positive steps. The intervention of, for example, President Kovind when it comes to a joint parliamentary session also to discuss the issue all across the country is something that we have open mind to. So I'm not going to come here and say that that we are not open to discussion or deliberation, but the lives that have been impacted also and the previous conditions vis-a-vis the conditions now also need to be highlighted, whether it is as I said, pension schemes, insurance schemes, better irrigated land, solar pumps, cash-rich crops, one drop per crop, all of this needs to be also brought into the public domain. So I don't think we can have a one-sided, lopsided debate.
Okay. No, I get that. But Kavita, I want to come back to you. And I think this debate, Salman, I'll come to you in just a bit. This debate veers towards a farm loan waiver. No matter what we want to speak about, you know, agriculture and farm loan waiver have almost become synonymous. You know, Telangana government, for instance, is paying farmers 4,000 per acre as investment support to purchase farm inputs or seeds for any crop that they want to grow. There are successive state governments that have given a one-time loan waiver, and all of that put together, I think, amounts to about 2.5 lakh crore rupees. Political parties have got windfall gains out of giving farm loan waivers in the past. Is subsidizing agriculture and loan waiver the only way to address issues, or are these really band-aid solutions? And I'm not going to sit on my high pulpit and say, you know, there's a fiscal deficit concern. There are fiscal deficit concerns all around the place. Why single out the poor farmer alone?
I think
Kavita.
I think the AIKSCC demand has to be understood in all its details and nuances. AIKSCC has been asking for a legal right of freedom from indebtedness, which consists of an immediate loan waiver for the simple reason that farmers' backs have been broken after successive years of droughts and disasters. And we don't have in this country, in the age of climate change, any effective crop insurance or disaster compensation mechanisms. They've been exposed for how ineffective they are, and that's simply our reality. In such a context, what AIKSCC is asking for is a statutory right which will allow farmers to be relieved of their debt burden every time that there is a natural disaster. And today's RBI guidelines don't work in favor of farmers. And similarly, we are talking about proactive debt relief mechanisms which have an institutional way by which farmers can find relief. So let's not, talk only about a loan waiver. And even if we are talking about a loan waiver, let's understand that there's a context to the present demand of loan waiver, where state governments have not been supported by the center, a center which actually creates most policies related to agriculture, whether it's credit, whether it's free trade, whether it is related to insurance products. State governments which have implemented loan waiver have failed miserably in both the design and implementation. You've just taken the example of Telangana. We have the example of Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab also. They didn't really translate into meaningful benefits for a large majority of farmers. They have not been relieved of their debt burden. So what AIKSCC is asking for is a loan waiver for sure, so that farmers can begin on a clean slate given an acute distress. But we are asking for a statutory institutional mechanism for debt relief. If the industry can have bankruptcy law, why won't we think about such mechanisms for farmers?
Why can't the farming community?
Yeah.
Fair point. I think that's a fair and a just and a reasonable demand, and nobody can throw the book of economics and fiscal policy at you and say, why the farmer? Because if you're going to do that for the rest of them, why not the farmer is the question. But Salman, so as a quick last word to you on this, and you launched schemes like Manrega, you had this big farm loan waiver of 2009, and many people believe the reason why you came back to office was this. I'm really talking across the political spectrum, not a very partisan question. We talk about housing for all. Why not a universal basic income? Has the time come in India to look at something like that for India's farmers? And I know there are fiscal implications of that, but look at the state of affairs as far as our agriculture and our rural mess is concerned.
Well, the universal basic income is something that requires a lot of analysis. I don't think we can just do it in a country like ours. I mean, let other countries experiment first. But first, it requires a lot of detailed study. I'm sorry, we cannot. There's no quick fix here. As far as agriculture is concerned, and I know you mentioned that the Congress party only talks about Rafale and other things. That's absolutely incorrect. The Congress party's main plank in these state elections has been the condition of farmers, and our president is on record, guaranteeing immediate relief to farmers. So unlike the BJP, by the way, the BJP's position is unfortunate, because what they seem to be suggesting is that we're doing everything, these farmers are greedy. I think that's the way they come across, and that is absolutely the wrong approach to take. What we should be saying is, if the farmers are in distress, and by the way, Kavita ji talked about
you're trying to be nothing but opportunistic, and by giving these kind of
false
claims which you cannot implement, you have no vision plan for the farmers.
Please do not interrupt. Please do not interrupt me. I did not interrupt you.
Go ahead, very
Just
quickly.
like we can have
Very
IBC
quickly.
for corporates. You
Okay.
know, in the last fiscal year, 1.2 lakh crore rupees were written off. Not waived off, written off. But out of those, what is the recovery rate? Very, very limited. So essentially, in practice, we're giving up that money. Now, when farmers ask for it, everybody says, oh, you're giving them doles, it's all about loan waivers. We need to have justice in this country. And we also have to have long-term planning. And we are ready to work with the farming community, because we just don't want short-term fixes. We want an enduring fix out here, enduring plan. But it has to be comprehensive. Lots of things are going on. Climate change is coming up. We need sustainable policies. And we certainly do not want denialism like the BJP has.
Okay. I have completely run out of time here on the show. I think farming or agriculture is always an emotive issue. But thank you very much, Salman and Isus, Ms. Kavita, and of course Shaina NC for speaking to us right here on ET Now. This is a big protest happening in Delhi. About 2 lakh farmers will be marching up onto Parliament tomorrow. And that's quite a sight. I do hope and believe that Indian politicians can set aside their political differences, get together, put their heads together and find ways to sustain Indian agriculture. That sight on your screens is not a good thing. Remember, more than 50% of our population depends on Indian agriculture. It cannot be allowed that the mess just gets acuter by every single day. Thank you very much for being with us.